Good morning. I've been asked to do a short video just highlighting from my perspective what the main challenges may be for West Midlands Police in response, for example, to the Adabawali report. We now know from this report what we suspected for a while, which is that mental health comprises a massive proportion of police demand. The report indicates it could be as much as 20% of all police demand is connected in some way to mental ill health. And obviously that covers a vast spectrum of business, including the response to victims who are vulnerable, offenders who have complex needs, and as well as that, responding to incidents or supporting the NHS where actually the incident doesn't necessarily involve crime, but it does involve the police management or the police support for the management of risk. 20% of police demand is a phenomenal amount. We know, for example, to break that down, that approximately 1,000 people per year are detained by West Midlands Police under Section 136 of the Mental Health Act. And we know that the force have had some success in dealing with this because we're now nationally regarded very well for 136. We've managed to get to a position where 95–96% of that workload does not lead to the removal of someone to a police station as a place of safety. The NHS now work very closely in partnership with us, and the 95–96% are taken to a health facility of one kind or another where the police then support NHS staff if that's needed. Where the force needs to do more work, however, is on other areas of business where actually the demand is perhaps more hidden and indeed much larger. For example, we know that the police don't spot everyone in police custody who may be vulnerable by virtue of mental ill health, but even just taking into account those that we do identify and where we refer people to the force medical examiner or to NHS services, we know that the number of people arrested for criminal offences whilst they are possibly mentally ill is in fact 6 or 7 times the size of the number of people. There's around 6,000 or 7,000 people a year at least who are identified in custody after arrest for an offence as being mentally ill. And yet we need to progress the issue around what are called liaison and diversion services so that we reach a position where NHS help to identify more people in custody who are vulnerable, and they assist the police with information sharing arrangements and other decision making that allows us to make a better decision about whether someone who's been arrested for an offence should be diverted from the justice system or prosecuted into it for various reasons. And that is going to involve people gaining an understanding of why prosecution may in fact be, in the long term, a good idea in some cases. Part 3 of the Mental Health Act is that part of the Act that deals with the management of offenders, psychiatric reports and assessment in the context of a criminal prosecution. And indeed the criminal courts in this country have powers at the point of sentencing to do things that doctors, nurses, police officers don't have the authority to do. And it's for that reason we need to improve the understanding of liaison and diversion and work out how we can bring services from the NHS into police custody that can help us make better decisions. The Adabawali report talked about the need for senior oversight and indeed senior leadership around policing and mental health, which is why the summit today has got to be a fantastic idea. In particular, the report talked about the need for more training for police officers. We know that in some forces around the country, officers get as little as 3 hours mental health training. Thankfully, West Midlands Police have always delivered more than that. But I would argue that for 20% of the demand that we have, the amount of training that we get probably could be increased, and it needs to be different in nature depending on the role that we have. Certainly speaking as a 24/7 response supervisor, I know that many of my colleagues at my rank and the sergeants who lead our officers in most of their sort of frontline engagements would absolutely benefit from an amount of mental health training that was significantly greater than we get at the moment. Mental health law, for example, is particularly complex, and where we have custody sergeants manning in complex law in custody, we give them a 1-week law course. I'd personally like to see at least several days of mental health training, including legal mental health training for frontline supervisors. Because, for example, there are at least 25 different circumstances that could legally be in play if somebody who had been detained under the Mental Health Act is no longer where they're meant to be, depending on whether they've absconded from hospital and under what circumstances, and the time scales involved can vary depending on the section from which somebody has gone missing. In order to get to the grips of that, we need to have supervisors who've got access to knowledge and materials who can lead our staff at the crucial points of having to take quick decisions around someone's detention. So I hope the summit proves to be profitable. I'm absolutely gutted that I can't be there, but I hope this short video just gives a few perspectives from me about why we've got a lot of work to do on policing and mental health, but why actually we're probably better positioned than a lot of other forces in the country to do that work. take it forward and make a positive difference for the people of the West Midlands, with whom health, social care and policing and criminal justice agencies have to make some of the most complex decisions. And just leave with a final thought from a quotation that I often use in this work. It comes from Desmond Tutu. The quotation says that at some stage we're going to have to stop pulling people out of the river, get upstream and work out why they're falling in. And I sometimes feel with policing and mental health that we're very, very focused at getting much, much better at working out how we can pull people out of the river. But I think we've got a long way to go in terms of understanding why people are going in the first place. I hope you enjoy the summit, and I hope this short video adds a little bit of something to it. Thank you.